Should you get an Audi RS3, the new one, over a Mk8 Golf R? Let's talk about this video. So welcome back to another video. Hope everyone is all well. You join me once again in my Mk8 Golf R to talk a little bit around this topic. So we've had a little bit more of an announcement around the new RS3. I've shared a little bit of video on that, shared its kind of price in the UK anyway at £50,900. A little bit about the stats. It sounds pretty cool, and you know, a big part of my channel is obviously talking about the Golf 8R as well and the build up to that. So I kind of wanted to compare the two. Now you might be thinking, Sam, the Mk8 Golf R is not a rival to the RS3. Well, it isn't, because there's a power deficit, 320 odd horsepower to 400. But in truth, real people, normal people like you and me, when they think of a Golf R, they inevitably think about an RS3 as well. Inevitably think about an A45S as well. You know, it's the whole kind of hot hatch group. You're naturally in the same kind of ballpark. Now, the biggest difference is the price. And that's kind of always been the sticking point. And that's always been, for me, what was great about the Mk7 Golf R. Came in at a price point that people could get into. Had some ridiculous lease deals back in 2014. And people could get into these cars. And actually, the difference between a Mk7 Golf R and the previous gen RS3 was actually quite big. Particularly, obviously, inflation and adjusted for now and things like that. You know, prices are different. And obviously, the inevitable bigger running costs and all those kind of things. And the Audi badge, you get, you know, it's a little bit more for servicing and stuff like that. Now, flash forward, I should say, to 2021, the new RS3 coming out of a starting price of 50,900 actually is not a million miles away from what you can pay for a Mk8 Golf R now. Now, there is a lot of issues with demand. I've done sort of videos on this. You know, people who have ordered their car still haven't even got it. There's lots of problems in the world. You know, even over in Germany, you've got the severe flooding sort of around Europe. I've seen sort of brand new cars sort of underwater, you know, obviously a tragedy really with people losing their lives as well, and sort of the disaster around that. Unfortunately for the car market as well, obviously a lesser concern to a point, but obviously this is a car channel, so let's talk about that. It will affect supply, you know, it just will. it's as simple as that. And you know, the car market is getting absolutely hammered. So I was kind of thinking, and I kind of touched on it briefly in my previous video, if you're sort of sitting there with a Mk8 Golf R on order, you're not set to get it towards later to the end of the year, do you decide to cancel it and go for an RS3? Perhaps you've saved up a little bit more money and maybe that's a car that you can get into. So should you? Well, first of all, if you actually want a Mk8 Golf R and you want to spec it to like a high amount with the performance pack, with the Akrapovic exhaust, with a panoramic roof, you know, with all the options you can get, leather seats and everything, because obviously the Audi is quite well spec'd, you're coming up to nearly £50,000 as well. Now on the flip side with the VW, you probably might get a discount on that. You know, you will be able to get a deal just because of the nature of the type of car it is. But let's say you're paying sort of 45,000, 46,000. You could then get a base RS3 for a touch over £50,000 in hatchback form. Okay, you're not going to get all the amazing options that you can get with the RS3, which will inevitably bring the price up by sort of 5, 10, even 15,000. You know, you can get carbon ceramic brakes on this, you get performance exhaust, you can delimit it, I think, to like 180 miles an hour. Carbon, everything. You go, you know, Vorsprung editions are pretty expensive. But if you just take the essence of a car and think of it as a base spec, there's not a huge price difference. It really, really isn't. And the fact is, it's got more power. It's got that 5-cylinder engine. And the thing is, you know, you can put as great an exhaust onto a car as you want. And the Akrapovic exhaust does sound really, really good. It's not going to sound as good as a 5-cylinder engine. It's just as simple as that. It's trying to make something louder, which doesn't necessarily inherently sound as good, being a 4-cylinder turbo. So yeah, there's that to think about. You get the more power as well. The chassis and the fundamentals of this MQB platform is very, very similar. And I actually think Audi have kind of taken things away and said, because in theory, with the previous gen, the Mk7 Golf R, the Audi S3, the Audi RS3, they're all built on the same platform. They've all got the very similar, if not the same, Howdeck system. It's all very, very similar. But for whatever reason, the Golf R took off, and it took off maybe a little bit more because of its price point. Whereas now, I don't think there's as much of a price difference as you could possibly think, and I think that's a huge point. The fact that you get drift mode as well, I think that's a standard. I don't think that's an option on the RS3, whereas it is an option on the Mk8 Golf R, albeit it's just a bit of a software tweak ultimately. You get those 2 clutch packs, which makes the car a little bit more adjustable and fun. Something I didn't touch on last time was I do like the sort of dedicated nature and the effort they put into the RS3. And one of that is actually sort of like this, I think it's like the star marked dedicated Pirelli Trofeo R tyres, which are dedicated to the RS3. That's my understanding. You can sort of option it to have that, and that obviously is going to give it huge amounts of potential for a tyre, a very, very high performance tyre, to be dedicated around a little hot hatch. I think is great. Something that's obviously a little bit more extreme than the Mk8 Golf R, despite its number of laps around the Nürburgring. They never did anything like that. Never released anything like that. So again, a car that has 2 sides of it could be quite fun on track, could be quite fun on a back road, can be all right sitting on the M1, on the motorway, on the highway, whatever, going to work or doing whatever you want to do, doing your daily business. I think that's cool, and I think the RS3, certainly, obviously, being announced this week, is a bit of a hype about it. I think it's got a lot going for it, they could have easily put the price up a lot more. They could have easily upped the power and given more reason to increase the price, but I think they've kept it at that 400 horsepower, and it's kept the price point at a position where actually people might look at it and go, well, actually, that's quite appealing. The great thing on RS3's sides is they hold their money really, really well, really well, and they're very, very, very highly sought after, even more so than Golf Rs. And because of that, it's kind of like, and I've shown you what the used market is like in the Golf R world, and I've got more videos to come on that as well. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about that. There's lots happening. And that's the bigger picture. You look at the bigger picture. If you're putting 50 grand into a car and you can come out of it in 2 years' time and only lose sort of six or 7 grand or something, that's a good place to be, frankly, for a new car. That's my kind of theory on that. So there you go. You might have one on order. I know a lot of my subscribers do. Do I think this should take the shine off your Mk8 Golf R? No, not really. Because in truth, I've seen people, and I've spoken to plenty of people actually on this channel, being a community channel. Please like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. It'll really help build it up. And yeah, really been enjoying it. And I've spoken to people who've sort of got a brand new one, lightly optioned, if not no options, for around 35,000. Obviously, starting price of the car is 39,000. So in that regards, the price difference is huge, really. And having driven the Mk8 Golf R, it was fantastic, and it certainly felt more than quick enough, although people always want that step above. That's just the natural progression of what we want. So I don't think you should feel shortchanged. I don't think you should feel shortchanged even if you did get it with a few options as well, and it's brought the price a little bit further up. We know what that car's going to be like, and ultimately, you look on the positives, it's going to be more economical if you're really interested in that kind of stuff. You're likely to get it sooner than the RS3. You're going to have to wait a little bit, maybe towards the end of the year, potentially 2022, to get the RS3. You're definitely not going to get any discounts, whereas you are going to get potential discounts on the Mk8 Golf R. But I do think there should be cars that you should consider. Personally, for me, I'd throw a curveball with the A45S because it's a little bit used now, and you can pick them up for sort of like the low 40s, which is pretty good, and allegedly more power than the RS3. I'm really happy Audi have brought out this car, and I'm happy they brought it out with the 5-cylinder engine. I think it's given people a lot to think about, and if I'm completely honest with you, we all know the car world is going to completely turn upside down, and it's slowly getting there with like the electric revolution. I read a little bit more information about that, and I read a lot more about company car tax and how you can obviously offset your capital gains and things on your businesses, stuff that's way outside what I kind of understand. But what that means is that, and how the government obviously more friendly with electric cars, more people are getting in there. I see Teslas all over the place, and because of that push, it's just pushing these little hatchbacks, the petrol powered, the 5 cylinders, even the 4 cylinders, and our petrol powered cars in general, just out of the way. So if you want to go out with a bang, I think the RS3 is 100% going to be the last big bang. And because of that, you wouldn't want to miss out, basically. Whether you got it now, whether you waited a year or two before it went down, I think it's got to be on your list to kind of consider getting, particularly if you do like the Golf R. I think it's something worth considering, and at that price point, it's not too bad, particularly when it can do so many different things. Can it be that little sports car? Can it be that hot hatch? Can it be that, you know, sort of family daily? You know, I love these cars. I talk about a lot because they're for real people like you and me. And, you know, I've said it again, you know, there are supercars. You know, just because you can't afford a 6-figure supercar doesn't mean you can't have one that does 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds and puts a massive smile on your face. So that's the RS3. So there you go. Lots of things to think about. Great cars. Really looking forward to seeing the RS3 in person, hopefully trying one out. I might have a fantastic subscriber who's getting one, who might give me the opportunity to drive one. You never know. Obviously, reach out to me for things like that. You know, I have done test drives as well before. You know, check out the Golf 8R one. I'll put another one up there with the GTI Club Sport. Yeah, reach out to me on Instagram or via email from the About section on my YouTube homepage. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts. RS3, Mk8 Golf R, what are you thinking? And yeah, have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you again next time. Cheers, guys.